Is that you, Michael?
A desperate cry for help.
I'm in a bit of trouble.
Fraudulent phone calls that are fooling grandparents.
He knew too much.
And swindling tens of millions of dollars.
He said, I need bail money.
It's a heartless scam, and it's running rampant.
It just screams organized crime.
How much money were they asking for?
Victor Malarak.
Your heart is melting.
Yes.
With the seedy masters of manipulation.
It's really the lowest of the low.
And authorities struggling to cope.
It is very much a large and growing problem.
What does it take to catch so many elusive and callous crooks?
Police, open the door!
And the Pirates of Canada.
Pirates who came here didn't come looking for treasure.
Long before Hollywood made them stars, Newfoundland was home to some adventurous and dangerous men.
These people were lionized, like Elvis is now.
But how much of what we think we know is actually true?
History is what happened, and folklore is what people think happened.
Now, dive down to find the relics of some very dangerous days.
Get right up close and stab them like that.
Searching for the treasures of Canada's pirate superstars.
It's putting together a great big jigsaw puzzle.
This is CTV's W5. Here is Sandy Ronaldo.
Welcome to W5. It is hard to imagine anyone heartless enough to take advantage of the love of a grandparent feels for a child. But right now, somewhere in Canada, a con man posing as a relative is likely on the phone persuading an elderly person to dip into their hard-earned savings to supposedly help a grandchild in trouble. It is a scheme that is running rampant across Canada and the United States, and police estimate a network of crooks is stealing tens of millions of dollars each year. Police even have a name for it, the grandson scam. As Victor Malarak reports, the perpetrators are based primarily in Canada, but target the elderly on both sides of the border.
It starts with what seems like a social call.
Hello?
Hi, Grandma. It's your grandson.
The scammers have the phone number of the victim. What they don't know is the name of the grandchild, but they soon will.
Oh, is that you, Michael?
It could be Michael, it could be James, it could be Zachary. But once they repeat the name...
Yes, it's Michael.
The victim is convinced. It's really their grandchild.
It's so nice to hear from you, Michael.
Then the hook, with a bait no loving grandparent could ever refuse. A plea for help.
Actually, Grandma, the reason I'm calling is because I'm in a bit of trouble.
Trouble of all kinds. A car crash, an impaired driving charge, fines to pay, money needed right away.
How much do you need?
When Gretchen Geary got the call, she was sure it was her grandson Zachary.
I never for a moment questioned but what it was him. His voice sounded exactly
like Zachary.
Like Zachary. You want to watch Lassie?
Gretchen lives alone in Erie, Pennsylvania. Zachary lives in New York and doesn't call very often.
And I said, oh, how you doing? Well, I'm in trouble. I need your help. You're the only one I can trust that won't talk to anybody else about this if I ask you to.
What kind of trouble was he in?
He said, well, I came to Toronto with a bunch of friends, and we rented a car, and we had a few drinks, and I'm in jail on a DUI. He said, I'm so embarrassed. I just can't stand for the family to know. I'll tell them eventually after I get it all straightened out, but I need bail money.
Gretchen's supposed grandson instructed her to drive to her bank, withdraw $2,800 in cash, and then transfer the money to Canada from this Western Union outlet. She never questioned why the bail money had to be sent directly to a judge who called himself Anthony Rawling. And here's what happened to that money. No court, no judge, but according to police, a man with a driver's license in the name of Anthony Rawling who picked up the money at a Western Union agency in Oshawa, Ontario. And that wasn't the last time Gretchen sent money to Canada. Now her grandson needed more to pay for his rented car.
How much?
The same amount, $2,800 with a couple hundred transfer fees or whatever that was. And I said, oh, Zachary, I can't do that. Oh, please, please. And he got frantic and he sounded like he was at the edge of tears. And you'll get it back tonight. They're going to release me and you'll get all your money back.
And you're his grandma, and he's frantic, and his voice is breaking up, and your heart is melting.
Yes, yes.
He promised to come to Erie and pay back the money he owed. But when Gretchen didn't hear any more, she called Zachary's parents.
And his mother had just talked to him an hour or so ago in New York. I said, did he say anything about coming to Erie tonight? No. So I told his parents everything that had happened, and my son said, Mom, you gotta go to the police. It was not Zachary.
When you discovered that you'd been duped and taken for $6,000, that must have really hurt.
It did, it sure did.
Did you feel foolish?
Yes.
Why?
I felt like an idiot for falling for that. But I still couldn't understand how this voice could have sounded identical to Zachary. I never questioned it for a minute.
Neither did Scott and Joan Snell, who live in Mannheim, Pennsylvania.
So what are you going to do the rest of the day?
I'm going to finish writing Christmas cards, I guess.
As far as they were concerned, their grandson Adam was in trouble, charged with impaired driving in Canada, and needed help.
I heard my grandson, or what I was convinced was my grandson. Everything he said to me was right on. But then he did turn me over to, I don't know whether it was him or another person, who was his judge.
A judge?
Said
What did the judge say?
That he was in trouble, he needed money, that there wouldn't be any charges, this would all be dismissed later on.
How much money were they asking for?
They wanted $2,800.
$2,800, the same amount Gretchen Geary was asked for, and also sent by Western Union. Not the outlet close to the Snell's home, but in a different town.
Did you find it kind of odd that it was this Western Union, which is 15 kilometers away from your place, and yet there's one just 5 kilometers away?
Yes, but when you're convinced that what you're doing is right and going to help the one I love, you do it. If it would have been 50 kilometers away, I'd have went.
So really no questions asked?
No, no.
So why would the fraudsters use a money transfer service instead of a bank? Well, to deal with a bank, you need an account. With a transfer service, there are no accounts. All you need is some ID, and you can pick up the money anywhere in Canada. That makes it tough for investigators, like Durham Regional Police Detective Jeff Kaplan, to catch the bad guys.
There's a sense of anonymity when they're using a company like Western Union. They're able to pick up the money using counterfeit identification. It's a very high quality fake ID, and it's very difficult to trace it back to them.
Fake ID, phony names, phony grandsons, in a scheme that reached out from Canada to the shores of the United States. Gretchen Geary and the Snells were victims of a well-organized scheme targeting thousands of elderly people across the United States.
There's no question in my mind, you're talking tens of millions of dollars.
Many of the cases ended up on the desk of Steve Baker,
Do you think we'd do any good?
the director of the Midwest region for the FTC, the U.S. Federal Trade Commission. The U.S. may be deep in recession, but scamming the elderly is a booming business. 5,000 complaints to the FTC in 2009, and the numbers are rising.
As more and more people figure out how to do it successfully, they're ripping off more and more people are doing it, and it is very much a large and growing problem.
A growing problem run by heartless criminals who seem to know so much about their victims.
We're looking at a number of cases where victims in Pennsylvania got targeted from Canada. How do they manage to do that, these con men?
We're not entirely sure how they manage to target people. Clearly, there's a whole industry that sells lists of people broken down by demographics. And in the situation of the grandparent scam, there is some speculation that they're going in and looking at the MySpace or Facebook pages of young adults, kids, And that on those, that they can sometimes figure out, somebody mentions who their grandparents are.
The conversation you're having with with this guy, Adam, who's supposed to be your grandson, it sounds to you that he really knows everything about you?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, he knew too much. That was the scary part.
Yeah.
Especially after we figured it out.
Yeah.
Now, he asked for money. I sent money that day, and they called the next day and wanted more.
They wanted more? How much more?
Same amount. And finally, I did get through to Adam's phone, his cell phone, and he finally called back to me. He said, "What's up, Grandpa?"
The real Adam?
Yeah.
And the alarm bells went off.
So I didn't send the second one, but it was almost got the second one. He called me back, and I told him, "You scam artist, I wish I had my hands on you."
The police would like to get their hands on them too. Problem is, only 10% of victims report the crime.
Only 10% are actually coming forward. Is the other 90%, I don't know, ashamed or embarrassed?
They're ashamed, they're embarrassed, they don't want to tell their friends, they want to put it behind them. It's really a bad experience. And so generally people don't, or they don't know who to complain to. Sometimes they try complaining to the people that rip them off, but that's not going to do them any good.
They've disappeared.
Right.
Disappeared into thin air. All the police have are these images found on security videos long after the suspects are gone.
Next,
Police, open the door!
on the trail of heartless fraudsters,
These are the fake identifications you caught them with.
how police catch up to suspects who seem to be one step ahead
You're certainly going to get what's coming to you.
when CTV's W5 continues.
So are you good to go, or we want us to wait here? No, we're good to go. Duff, you'll go around the back, everyone else to the front.
October 2010. Officers from Durham Region, Toronto, and the Ontario Provincial Police hit the houses of suspected scammers in a series of raids across the Greater Toronto area.
Police, open the door!
They find equipment for making fake credit cards and ID, the kind used by fraud artists in the grandson scam. 9 suspects arrested.
Let's get the house cleared real quick and bring everybody downstairs.
Players in a web of organized crime who provide the tools of the trade for the scammers. Durham Regional Police Detective Jeff Kaplan also hoped to find fake ID that would link directly to the grandson scam. No luck. But that doesn't mean he's going to give up.
When you see these senior citizens who are very believing and very vulnerable getting taken, tick you off?
Absolutely. To me, there are 2 vulnerable sectors of society. One is the elderly, and the other, of course, are children. And it's really the lowest of the low when it comes to criminals who target these 2 sectors.
Targets like Oshawa resident Earl Luke. He sent more than $4,000 to supposedly help his grandson Jason pay for a lawyer after a car crash.
You got taken.
Got taken, yeah. Could have been worse, though.
Are you angry about what happened?
There's another word I would say.
What word would you say?
Pissed off.
And rightly so. But guess what? Earl's grandson Jason Hall is an officer with the Durham Regional Police.
When you talked to your grandfather about it a little later, did he feel kind of sheepish or upset?
He didn't believe it at first. When I phoned to talk to him to say, like, look, this is Jason. The other person you're talking to is not me. Please stop sending money. He still continued. He's like, well, you got the money that you asked me to send, right? And I'm like, Grandpa, I'm like, it's not me.
When police traced Earl's payment, they found a surveillance photo of this man collecting the cash. And they've identified the same man picking up payments from other victims across Ontario and Delta, British Columbia.
Ever catch him?
To this date, I don't believe he has been caught.
No arrest in that case. But in 2009, Durham Regional Police got lucky. A suspect in the Pennsylvania frauds.
We got the call mid-morning from a local business who sends and receives Western Union transfers. It was a male receiving Western Unions from the United States.
The same male caught on surveillance picking up money from Pennsylvania a few days before. Police believed it was a fraud in progress. No time to lose. Police rushed to the scene and arrested Anthony Ojo, a Nigerian who has lived in Canada since 1998.
We got lucky that the employees at the cash money place were sharp, they were on the ball, and they picked off Mr. Ojo as being a repeat customer with different names.
Big mistake on Ojo's part, walking into the same place, showing ID one day that he was this guy, and a couple of weeks later that he's another guy.
Absolutely, that was his critical error. But this goes to show how bold they are and how they feel they have this sense of invincibility, that they're not going to get caught and they can do things like that.
Ojo had enough documentation to fill an evidence box. Turns out his Nigerian passport was the only piece of genuine identification he had with him. The rest were fake.
These are the fake identifications you caught him with?
Yes. The first set of ID that I'll show you is in the name of Anthony Rawling, and is a counterfeit Ontario driver's license and a matching social insurance card to go with it.
And then he's also Alex Obey and Patrick Cole.
Yes.
This was also in his car.
Yeah, those two other pieces of identification were found in his car.
If one of those names, Anthony Rawling, sounds familiar, it's because it's the name of the supposed judge Gretchen Geary sent her money to. Fake names and fake IDs that would fool anyone.
When you look at these driver's licenses, I mean, this is the new one.
Yes.
And it's got the hologram, it's got everything. So did they get these driver's licenses legitimately, or is this a fake?
This is a completely fake, a completely counterfeit driver's license. They've gone to a lot of hard work and a lot of research to get the security features that are on a real driver's license and reproduce them on a fake driver's license. For this quality of identification, it just screams organized crime.
Organized crime spread across Canada and targeting the elderly on both sides of the border.
What is your real first name? Anthony. And real middle name?
And now police believed they had one of the cogs in that machine of deceit.
Anthony, you're under arrest for fraud over $5,000.
But would Ojo's arrest unravel the whole scheme?
Okay, so if you lie to me and I catch you, then things are going to be very difficult between us.
We don't believe he was the person making the phone calls because he had an accent, but he seemed to be the person who all the Western Unions were going to.
Was he cooperative or willing to spill the beans on anyone?
Absolutely not. When he was first arrested, he stated his name was Anthony Rawlings, which was the name he was receiving the Western Union under. And the lies started from immediately. He stated he'd been dropped off by a friend who had gone back to Toronto. We, of course, later found his vehicle parked around the corner.
If Mr. Ojo thought he was going to get off lightly, he was in for a nasty shock.
I'm asking you this question about names, and you feed me a load of bullshit, and I know that, okay? I'm not stupid.
He may not have made the calls, but he was the guy picking up the cash. According to U.S. prosecutors, more than $600,000 from 120 victims in Pennsylvania. Even so, his sentence in Canada might have been at most a year. In the United States, a different story, and authorities there wasted no time asking for extradition. These days, home for Ojo is a cell at this federal detention center in Philadelphia. Because his victims live in Pennsylvania, he'll face trial in this state. And if convicted, he'll see a lot more prison time than he would have in Canada, up to 20 years. A sentence that would bring great satisfaction to one of his victims, Gretchen Geary.
Makes me feel happy. He should be facing something terrible for all the things he's done to other people.
Gretchen Geary was luckier than most. She can still afford to keep her beloved horse, Apache. The day she sent her second batch of money to Canada was the same day Ojo got arrested, and she got that money back.
So you managed to get back $3,000?
Yes.
You must have said to yourself, whoa, somebody was being real kind to me.
Yes, I couldn't believe the good fortune of that happening.
But it takes more than good fortune to stamp out fraud. Today, Steve Baker from the U.S. Federal Trade Commission is in Toronto to meet with Canadian officials.
I know they had victims from at least 6 Canadian provinces.
A team of police and government agencies from both sides of the border to strike at the organized gangs who prey on the elderly.
A lot of the time, these people are using the border as a shield to try to protect themselves, we're trying to take that crutch away from them.
What should the Canadian authorities be looking at or be doing to make it much more difficult for these con men to operate?
The Canadian law enforcement I've worked with are really wonderful, dedicated people who care desperately. They're really trying to do the right thing. The frustration that they've expressed, which is hardly new, is they believe that if they could get sentences in Canada that would actually result in people going to jail, that might actually deter some of the crime.
The FTC has also weighed in on the money transfer industry. In 2009, it hit MoneyGram International, a U.S. company with over 4,000 outlets in Canada. In a multi-million-dollar class action suit, the FTC alleged MoneyGram was being used for fraud.
As much as 80% of all the money that went from the United States to Canada through the MoneyGram system was for fraud. And that they had, in many cases, their own outlets, their own agents in Canada, were mainly existing for no other reason than to get fraudulent proceeds. We allege the MoneyGram knew about that situation and failed to take corrective action.
None of the allegations ever made it to court. MoneyGram agreed to pay an $18 million settlement, money that was paid to hundreds of victims. It sent a chill through the whole industry and a tightening of security.
Can you do higher?
But in the end, the only real way to end the grandson scam is for victims to follow their heads instead of their hearts.
When you look back, do you get angry?
Yes. And I think one of the things I get the most angry about is the last phone call when I said, "You did get the money?" "Oh, yes, I have the money."
Something in the voice.
When I think back, that last phrase, "Oh, yes, I have the money," I think, now that I know, you dirty.
So, how can you or your grandparent avoid being taken by these fraudsters? First, never offer up a name. Ask which grandson. Ask personal questions a stranger couldn't answer. Find out where your real grandson is and contact him on your own. And no matter how dramatic the story, do not send money, particularly cash. If you visit our website at w5.ctv.ca, you can find more tips about how to fraud-proof yourself. We'll be right back.
Palisade, it had batteries of cannons, it had taverns, it had bars, it had a still. They had a wonderful time when they were there.
Eventually, the French had had enough. They sent a fleet of warships into Conception Bay to dig Easton out of his lair. When the fleet arrived, like some scene from a classic pirate movie, Easton sailed out to meet them.
It was like a scene out of Pirates in the Caribbean.
Brass-forged boarding axes, shotguns that held nails and glass.
Ugly, ugly fighting.
Right up close. You get right up close and stab them like that.
Easton drove the flagship of the French fleet, the St. Malo, onto a reef at the mouth of this bay. A spectacular victory, but not his last.
What was the most successful escapade he was ever involved in?
He captured 3 Spanish treasure ships off the Strait of Gibraltar in about 1615. It was the largest pirate heist in world history at that time.
Is there a way to say what that would be the equivalent of these days in terms of cash value?
$50 million, maybe.
An impressive haul, an impressive career for a pirate. But is it all true? You see, a lot of what's told about Peter Easton is mired in folklore. Take the case of this supposed pirate graveyard. So it's conceivable then. According to stories in Harbor Grace, this tombstone is a grave belonging to one of Easton's men. But it's not.
The black standard that we call a pirate flag came in existence about 1700, which is almost 100 years after Peter Easton.
In fact, the skull and crossbones are part of a series of carvings. In this case, they represent death, not piracy.
What you think is a real pirate?
But there is a real pirate grave in Harbor Grace. Its location just isn't known by most people. Several years ago, the United Church was digging a new sewer line. They unearthed a mass grave.
And they are correct for the date. They're correct for what they're wearing.
And they've got injuries that would be consistent with having been part of a battle.
Yes.
The site is also within a few meters of where Easton had his fort. It all adds up. But local folklore still prefers that skull and crossbones.
History is what happened, and folklore is what people think happened. If you go around speaking to people about folklore and what they think happened, that's a history too, but it's a people's history.
So to definitively separate historical fact about Easton from what Crummy calls a people's history, we've come across Conception Bay to the site of the first English colony in Canada, Cupid's, founded in 1610.
I'm pretty sure this wall was built in 1612 in response to the threat that was posed by Peter Easton.
Archaeologist Bill Gilbert is an expert in 17th century Newfoundland. He's excavating the remains of that colony, and he knows a fair bit about Easton.
The pirates who came here didn't come looking for treasure. They came looking for supplies, they came looking for ships, they came looking for men. Pirates like Easton came here to rebuild their fleets.
When it comes to Easton,
he arrived here in Newfoundland in the spring of 1612. He arrived first at Harbour Grace. He came here to build up his pirate fleet. He spent the summer here. By the time he left, he had 8 ships and 500 men.
And what about the Spanish gold ships Easton captured? Well, according to Gilbert, he did end his sea-roving days with a flourish.
He sailed to the Azores. He attacked the Spanish silver fleet. He succeeded in capturing several vessels, and he retired to the south of France, a rich man.
So the pirate admiral Peter Easton is as real as these ruins, and he was spectacularly successful any way you look at it. He lived out his days a wealthy, happy man, a claim few pirates can make.
Peter Easton's the greatest living pirate of his time. If he was a businessman, he would be like Warren Buffett. And if he was a criminal, he would be like people from the Great Train Robbery. All right, he was a truly great man.
Our captain being up me boys, he answered him so.
And Easton may have left more than a lasting impression on this province. He may have left parts of his fleet. He did lose ships in the area, and few have ever looked for them. So perhaps now the expedition by Ocean Quest isn't quite as eccentric as it first seemed. With a little luck, a little skill, and a lot of diligence, they just might be able to find the wreck of a pirate ship.
Next,
We're good. Bring it up.
hunting for pirate treasure. Dive down to a murky world dotted with prizes from the past. When CTV's W5 continues.
I got more room to maneuver.
A history of pirates that goes back 400 years. A history as yet unexplored. At least the part that's sitting on the bottom of Conception Bay. But that's all going to change. Today, the hunt for the wreck of a pirate ship begins. Bill Flaherty is the expedition's skipper.
You have to do it. If you have a passion for something, you're going to do it. Just like Don Quixote with his windmills. If you believe in it, it's going to be there.
So where to start? Well, there isn't much to go on. But remember that battle that Peter Easton won against the French? According to the historical records, he sank that ship on these rocks.
Hopefully today we're going to do a little bit of a side scan sonar and pick up some evidence.
Archaeologist Andrew Hiscock and dive master Rick Stanley decide to run a magnetometer through a search pattern. It will pick up signals from large metal objects.
Keep her forward, but just idle.
If there are any cannons, they should show up. And cannons mean shipwrecks that could be related to Easton.
If I had a hook on the other end of this now, I could almost go jigging while I was here.
We're good. Bring it up.
But after a couple of hours, no luck with the magnetometer.
The signal strength is all over the place here, right? So
The crew decides to deploy a side scan sonar to see if they have better luck.
Let me know when you want the fish in the water, Andrew.
Yep.
It's a device that sends out a sonar pulse and creates an almost 3D image of the sea floor.
What would you look for if you were looking for like a 17th century cannon?
Here, we're more interested in, say, a ballast pile, maybe some timber sticking up.
But the terrain around Easton's rock also defeats the side-scan sonar. Technology alone is not going to find the wreck of a pirate ship.
Do you think a more likely chance might be to put some divers in the water?
You'd have to investigate all these nooks and crannies we're seeing on the side scan.
Searching for cannons in these conditions is like crawling around an area the size of a football field, partly blindfolded, looking for something that might be no bigger than a short length of drain pipe. But divers have one great advantage. They can get into every nook and cranny. For one exciting moment, diver Deb Stanley thinks she sees the keel of a ship. But it turns out to be an optical illusion. After a day of searching, the divers come up empty-handed.
I could see what we were seeing on the side scan, these cracks, eh? There was one even shaped like a bow of a ship.
Disappointed, the Ocean Quest crew head for port.
You're going to pan through an awful lot of mud to find that tiny little grain of gold.
That's right, and that's the payoff. After all that time you spend, all that research, all that, talking to people and going out there, and the weather conditions, the sea conditions, everything plays into that whole adventure of the search.
The thrill of the chase.
Right, exactly.
Day 2 of the search. It starts full of promise. Bill has found a local diver who says he might be able to help. Greg Harvey tells the team he knows an underwater location where there might be swivel guns, small guns mounted on ships to repel boarders.
Meet Greg.
Greg?
Yep,
the guy's going to show us a swivel gun?
Well, it could be swivel guns or it could be sewer pipe.
Well, come and show me your sewer pipes then.
The thing, just knowing, in your mind, knowing that that could be the swivel gun from the 17th century, being that close to something from history, to me, that's the thrill of, or the, that's the excitement, that's the adrenaline of diving or the research.
Greg also knows about an anchor that could have come from the 17th century and an almost intact amphora, small clay jugs used to store oil and wine. The divers go right into the water. It doesn't take more than a few minutes, despite the poor visibility, to find the anchor. It's so heavily encrusted, it's barely recognizable. And 20 minutes later, they find the amphora jug. Again, these were used by sailors from that period, so it's possible the jug came from a pirate ship. But despite searching until they're frozen from the cold water and almost out of air,
we found the amphora, and we found the anchor. No swivel guns.
So after 2 days of searching, all they found is an anchor and an amphora jug that might date to the 17th century. And now time is becoming a factor. This is a volunteer expedition. People have jobs to get back to. They need some help. Bill remembers that 25 years ago, other people explored these waters.
Is a sample town.
Jeanette Gins was the president of Newfoundland's Marine Archaeology Society.
Here we have 2 clay pipes. Everybody would smoke a pipe, throw it over the end of the wharf when the stem had become too short.
Jeanette's group spent virtually every weekend investigating wreck sites around Newfoundland, and they were quite successful, discovering several significant shipwrecks over the years.
It's putting together a great big jigsaw puzzle.
Somebody referred to it as almost underwater CSI. Did that spark something with you?
It's a cold case. and this is a matter that you have to get the evidence to show it as well as you can.
And sometimes the evidence is 400 years old.
Yes.
Jeanette's last dive with the Marine Archaeology Society was in the late 80s. The government stopped issuing permits. But Jeanette hasn't forgotten the sites she explored.
Hi there.
Good to see
The final day of the expedition, and Rick Stanley convinces Jeanette and the rest of her team, David Roberts and Greg Harvey, to reunite for one last dive, to take the expedition to a site near Port Kerwin that may contain the wreck of a pirate ship.
We did find 7 guns. 3 of those guns were 7.5 to 8 feet long. And there were and a couple of smaller ones.
Heavy armament for a fishing boat or supply vessel.
So, bottom line, that could be a pirate from the 17th century.
It could certainly be.
So could this ship be part of Easton's pirate fleet? Hopes run high, but it's been 25 years since they found the wreck. They're not certain they can find it again. As soon as the divers submerge, they realize they're in for a tough search. The visibility is under 10 feet, and they've got to go deep to find this wreck. Thick seaweed covers the ground. After several passes, they find nothing.
Right on, you guys are.
Okay, go over close.
But the group refuses to give up. They decide on a second dive. This time, David Roberts leads the team to the bottom. And suddenly, out of the murk, appears the encrusted shape of an old muzzle-loading cannon. Then another, and another, scattered across the bottom like discarded toys. The guns are from the right time period. They're different sizes. Pirates picked up guns anywhere they could get them, and this vessel was heavily armed. All evidence to suggest this is probably the wreck of a pirate ship.
All right.
Found 4 of the 5 cannons.
Great. All on one go. Yeah.
Yeah, your directions were spot on, dear.
Uh-huh.
Have a look at it.
Okay, so these are some of the trying to work out where you were.
But this wreck only raises more questions for Bill Flaherty. Where did the ship come from? Was it part of the fleet commanded by the pirate Peter Easton? And how did it sink?
You have to have that passion of the big picture. You know, not just picking up something, oh, I found a cannon or whatever. It's the association of that with everything around it. There's so much history here, untouched. So many people unaware of what's here in the doorstep.
And what's on Canada's doorstep is an underwater history of pirates that's unknown and possibly underappreciated. A fact that Bill and the other divers plan to change. They're not stopping until they've cleared up all the mysteries about the Pirate Admiral of Newfoundland.
And W5 will be right back. Welcome back to W5 and to an update on one of our stories. 2 weeks ago, we reported the story of Karen Oderbine, a serial swindler who has run a series of charity schemes across Canada.
There any possibility of talking to you about your charities?
2 days after our broadcast, Oderbine was arrested by Alberta RCMP, charged with theft over $5,000 and released on bail. And that is W5 for this week. Remember, you can also find us online at w5.ctv.ca. There you can learn more about our stories, watch them again, and contact us via email. You can also follow us on Twitter, and of course, we'd love to hear from you. Until next week, on behalf of all of us, I'm Sandy Ronaldo. Thank you for watching.